Hey, what is up guys, MKBHD here, and this is OnePlus 5T. It is literally the 2017ized version of the OnePlus 5. Now the OnePlus 5 just came out in June of this year, so it's only a couple months old, and OnePlus is a company that tends to cater to what their fans want. That phone had a lot going for it, but it just didn't feel very 2017 with all the other phones coming out. But this now we're talking. So in case maybe you looked over the OnePlus 5 a couple months ago, this is their new one, maybe you'll consider this. These are the top 5 new features of the brand new OnePlus 5T. So number 1 is the display. And this is definitely the biggest change, literally. It's what makes it feel the most like a new phone. It's now a 6-inch 1080p AMOLED display up front, and it gets way closer to every edge. So the side bezels are slimmer now, and the top and bottom bezels are cut down a lot. Obviously that's very 2017. You already know screen to body ratio matters now, and this feels a lot more modern already because of it. Now it's still not a Quad HD display. It's not quite at the level of the highest end flagships in resolution, but OnePlus also likes to stick with the lower resolution for longer, as they have, in the name of battery life and performance. And 1080p obviously doesn't look bad at all, so I get it. Also, if you haven't noticed, it is the new longer, taller 2:1 aspect ratio we're seeing on all these 2017 phones. So this one's 2160 by 1080. It's not new to Android, so apps already fill up the display and everything. There's no real compatibility problems, but still, of course, it gives you a bit of bezel when watching videos and things like that. But we're just kind of used to this by now on these screens. Bottom line is, the display is way better. It definitely gets really bright, so it's viewable outdoors, and it has different color modes in the settings, including an adjustment slider for color temperature. So they've thought of all this stuff. You're probably not gonna like this though. It is an OLED, and the display does this weird rainbowing when you get severely off axis. Not a huge deal to everyone, but I can already see this awkwardly making some headlines. So number 2 is OnePlus sticking to their guns with this design. We have definitely seen this industrial unibody metal look before. There are some chamfers and some light curves, but overall it's the shape we're familiar with. It resembles its little brother a lot. But there are a couple of changes, obviously. With this nearly edge-to-edge display, of course, on the front, there's no longer any room for that fingerprint sensor that they've always put up there. So this is the first OnePlus phone to move it to the back, and they have put it in what I'd consider the correct place on the back, which is just above the middle, not too high, not too low, just right about where your finger rests naturally. It's still ceramic, it's still extremely fast, still just as secure, but it's on the back now, like where it's been with the Pixel and the V30 and others. Nice. And something else that's usually pretty underrated with smartphones is good buttons. In fact, we usually don't really talk about them at all unless they're loose, bad buttons. So I feel the need to mention that the OnePlus 5T has exceptionally good, really clicky, convincing, crisp, tactile buttons. I like that about it. And another thing, OnePlus has never officially said that the 5T or the 5 is officially water resistant or waterproof, but I've seen some videos on YouTube where the 5 holds up pretty well to some minor splashing. So that could be a nice bonus to something you usually don't hear about with this industrial design. Now number 3 is what OnePlus has decided to do with these cameras. So the OnePlus 5 already had dual cameras. It had a main camera and a 2x telephoto lens on the back. Pretty standard setup from what we've seen. But this time they've decided to do some things a little different. This time it's the same 16 megapixel main camera as the OnePlus 5, but instead of a second telephoto lens, it's another normal range camera, same focal length, 20 megapixels, but with an f1.7 lens focused on low light photography. Now here's the thing about that. The main camera is already an f1.7 lens, and it's less pixels, so they're bigger pixels, so you would think that's also better for low light. So how exactly is this second camera better for low light? Well, OnePlus says that the 5T in low light, so under 10 lux, will switch automatically to that second camera and use something called intelligent pixel technology, which merges 4 pixels into 1 to reduce noise and enhance clarity in low light. I can't find a better explanation than what OnePlus says. I'm not sure if it's hardware specific. I would love to know exactly how it works, but at this point, we just kind of trust it. I hope it works the way they say it does. And there's also still portrait mode in these cameras, using all software to create a blur around your subject since you don't have a telephoto lens anymore. It's kind of like what the Pixel 2 is doing. And they still have clear zoom and pro mode and all the other stuff OnePlus has been doing in the camera for years. So that's good to see. But yeah, an interesting little shakeup in the camera department. And then number 4, a new way to log into this phone, is their new facial recognition. There's not a whole lot of information about this available, but from what I can tell you from my first impressions, it is insanely fast. 5-10 times faster than Face ID on the iPhone. It's ridiculous. So you can hit the power button to wake up the phone and basically turn it towards you. As soon as it sees your face, it unlocks. No animation or anything, just open immediately. And then even if you're already looking at your phone when you take it out of your pocket and you press the power button to wake, it just goes straight to your home screen. It doesn't even pause for a second on your lock screen to look at you, which it's crazy fast. It could actually get annoying if you just wanted to check your notifications. So obviously it's brand new and this isn't a full review. I will definitely have to do some more testing to figure out if this is the real deal. But my first thought is, how can this be so fast and also be just as secure? Not really sure yet, but either way, it's really interesting to see some phone makers already start to play around with more facial recognition stuff now that Apple, of course, is so committed to it with iPhone 10. And then number 5, last but not least, is the stuff they didn't change. OnePlus 5, like I've said already, was a pretty great phone for the price. They're really hell-bent on being a good phone for the price. So they kept a lot of those same things in the OnePlus 5T. They kept the headphone jack. That's something a lot of enthusiasts refuse to let die, so this is one of your few phones left rocking it this year. They kept the alert slider on the side again. I mean, if you've used OnePlus phones for a while, you kind of just get used to having this and switching between modes on the fly. They kept, of course, Oxygen OS, which is their ROM that's always been pretty close to stock Android with a few added features on top. Still has that shelf to the side of the home screen and those gestures for screen off that you can draw on the screen. Just overall a familiar experience for OnePlus users. Right now it's on top of Android 7.1.1, but I expect that it'll get updated to Oreo sooner than later. It kept the same specs internally as the OnePlus 5, so still the Snapdragon 835 chip and either 64 with 6 gigs of RAM or 128 with 8 gigs of RAM. No wireless charging still, but they kept dash charging, kept reader mode, and most importantly of all, it's keeping around that same price. It's starting at $499, which is very clearly undercutting a lot of the higher end flagships we've seen in the last couple months. So this might be the one. OnePlus 5 felt a little outdated. This 5T feels very 2017 and still costs less than a lot of the others out there. Not bad. Let me know what you guys think. Until the next one, thank you for watching. Talk to you later. Peace.